To all those who look at Israel and think that the protests in Israel right now are about getting rid of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, they are not. The protest movement is about one thing: the socialist, secular, leftist hegemony of Israel wanting to get rid of the Jewish leader of the right, just as they have done every time we have had a right-wing leader in Israel. Like these. Whether you like Netanyahu or hate him, whether you agree with him politically or not, with how he is trying to manage a crazy, two-headed, 50-50 government while trying to manage the coronavirus, with how he miraculously survived the worst United States president for Israel for 8 years, Obama, with little damage miraculously to Israel, or with how he is managing with the most pro-Israel president, Trump, we have ever had. It all doesn't matter. The protest movement has nothing to do with Netanyahu, what he has or has not accomplished, or what he is or isn't doing today. Surprisingly, the protest movement is not even about getting rid of Netanyahu, as if that's it. And it is definitely not about saving democracy, which is what the left is screaming day and night, as they say. It is the protest movement is about getting rid of the right wing from power, and doing that by getting rid of the leader of the right, Netanyahu. Again, as they did for every right-wing leader. For the past 20 years, the left has unsuccessfully tried to get rid of Prime Minister Netanyahu whenever he was in power, with one legal case and horrible press coverage after another. Sounds familiar? As has been exposed little by little, the left have been corrupting every inch of the justice system and its leadership to achieve that goal. Does that also sound familiar? The sad irony is that the protesters think that they are protecting democracy by calling to get rid of Prime Minister Netanyahu, while the truth is that they are the ones defending the ones in the justice system who have corrupted Israeli democracy. The amount of conflicts of interest cases and abuses of justice that have been exposed amongst the leaders of the justice system, the Supreme Court, and the heads of police are dizzying here in Israel over the past few months. Yet the public hardly hears about them. Why? Because the left-wing, Netanyahu-hating mainstream media bury all those stories. So we have corrupt leaders in the justice system, accomplices in the police, and a left-wing media that brainwashes the public to think that the corruption is with Netanyahu, when it's actually all of them running the corruption, destroying Israeli democracy, and covering up for one another for it. And yet, miraculously, a huge population in Israel still doesn't believe them. That is truly the most unbelievable thing of all. 3 elections in 1 year, all Netanyahu won, regardless of all this. Now, justice reform is needed to realign the democratic system in Israel, and the media must be deregulated in Israel to allow for a more free market media ecosystem. Today, the media is all run by a left-wing regulatory system. And if you think that this is all Baba Maisa, since the Likud has been in power for decades, then Likud should have taken care of this. It's their problem. But you must read the book that breaks this all down in an easy-to-understand way. Why do we vote right and always receive left? Written by my friend Erez Tadmor. People think that if only Netanyahu steps down, then we can have a right-wing leader who will unite the nation and get rid of this corruption. Forget about it. It is a pipe dream. The next right-wing leader to replace Netanyahu will be used by the left to get rid of Netanyahu, and then he or she will be thrown to the dogs as well by the left, the justice system, the media, etc. Just like the left does to every right-wing leader. Getting rid of Netanyahu only feeds the beast of the left and empowers them. What we need is a leader to stop them. I know the irony. It has been Netanyahu himself who has allowed the corruption to grow in the justice system under his terms. And Netanyahu, stopped all the reforms to the justice system over the years. It has been Netanyahu that has allowed and even appointed some of the worst offenders in the justice system. So on the one hand, it doesn't make sense, right? So it's Netanyahu's fault, or it's not an issue. However, you have to get it. You have to understand Netanyahu plays 4-dimensional chess. And sometimes change and drastic change takes time and positioning. And Netanyahu knows this better than anyone. Now, change is coming to the corrupt justice system. Only a few years ago, none of the Likud leadership would talk about change to the justice system. Now the Likud party has Yariv Levin and Amir Ohana and others, and those two are two secular Likud past lawyers rising up the ranks, and they want to make change to the justice system. Even with the mainstream media shutting down the stories of corruption with the justice system, thankfully, little by little, people are hearing about the truth thanks to some other media avenues. The end for the corrupt justice system is near. Not as near as we need, but it's getting closer day by day. There's only so much corruption they can cover up for so long. Unfortunately, the Blue and White Party, led by Benny Gantz, who are in the government, they are there to cover up and defend the corruption of the justice system. Again, they are the ones who preach defending democracy. Yet, they are the ones protecting those destroying Israeli democracy and the justice system. So, we're not going to see any changes for a while so long as they're in government. But the necessary changes are coming, and it will happen because Netanyahu remains prime minister. If Netanyahu is forced to step down, it will be even harder to get rid of the corruption in the system on the heels of their success in getting rid of Netanyahu.
Pulse of Israel, frontline videos from the Holy Land. Support our work by donating today.